as we come down in our text, starting at verse 3, it says there's a time to kill and a time to heal, time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, time to mourn and a time to dance, time to cast away stones, time to gather stones, time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. So all throughout this passage, Solomon is giving extreme opposite. He's saying that on the one hand, there's a time for this, but on the other hand, there's also a time for that. He's giving opposite extremes, and he starts off by saying that there's a time to be born in verse 2, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to be planted. Then when we get down to verse 3, he says there's a time to kill and a time to heal. Yeah. Then he continues on with these opposites, saying that over here there's one thing, over here there's something else. My question on this morning is, what happens in the in-between? The passage tells us that there's a time to be born and there's a time to die. There's not neither one of us have control over when we're born, and we certainly don't have any control over when we die. But if there's one thing that we do have control of, it's what do we do in the in-between? What are you doing in this in-between time, between the time that you were born? Guess what? Between the time you came into the cradle and between the time you go out in that casket, what are you doing in the in-between time? Are you doing what God wants you to do? Are you doing your reasonable service? We just came out of talking about inviting your Lord and reaching out and sharing the gospel, which is the good news. Are you going ahead and telling people about Jesus Christ? Are you letting somebody know that Jesus is the death, burial, and resurrection, that he is the way, the truth, and the life? What are you doing between nowhere? You got to learn to look within. You got to explore what season you're in, and begin to ask God, what's my purpose in this season? What's my purpose in this season? Indeed, we all wish that the seasons that we were in were always happy, always joyous. Everything was going great, but that's just not the way life is. God has a way of putting us in position in order for his purpose to be carried out. Let me say that again. God has a way of putting us in position in order that his purpose would be carried out. If you don't believe me, ask a man by the name of Joseph. Joseph is a man of the Old Testament that was put in position so that God's purposes could be carried out, not only for his whole family, but for all of Israel. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers that should have been loving him. They were all older brothers, by the way. So they should have been watching out for him, protecting him. Imagine if you had Walter and Curtis going ahead, Minister Brad, and throwing you into a pit. Wait a minute. You're my older brothers. You're supposed to be protecting me. And instead, they threw Joseph into a pit. But guess what? God knew that his brothers were going to throw him into a pit so that his purpose could be revealed. And so after Joseph thrown into that pit, all of a sudden a caravan comes along. His brothers lift him up that pit and sell him to the caravan. Joseph next finds himself in Egypt, still having done nothing wrong of his own. Poor old Joseph next finds himself in the house of a man by the name of Potiphar, doing everything that he knew to do, doing everything right. He went ahead, helped Potiphar to become rich. He went ahead and watched over all of Potiphar's household, watched over the livestock, increased Potiphar's net worth. But then along came Potiphar's wife. Oh man. Along came Potiphar's wife trying to hit on old poor Joseph. And Joseph said, no, I'm not with it. This is my master. This is the one that I'm serving. I'm not trying to step out on him. And so Potiphar's wife went and lied on Joseph. Or long, poor old Joseph found himself in jail. Once again, found himself in a place that he did not want to be. Found himself in a place where God's purpose was going to be revealed. Oh, have you ever found yourself in a place where God's purpose was revealed in your life? Have you ever found yourself in a place that was uncomfortable to you? You didn't know why you were in that position. Didn't know why you were going through this trial. Didn't know why you were going through that tribulation. But during now, God revealed his purpose and let you know that I put you in this position so that my purpose will be fulfilled in your life. All right. So after a while, Joseph ended up in jail. And after he came out of jail, he ended up being the second in command of all of Egypt. Saved not only his family from famine, but saved all of Egypt from famine. Why? Because you had God who went ahead and took Joseph and put him in position so that God's purpose could be realized. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And so again, when we talk about looking within, we have to ask ourselves, what am I doing in the in between time? What am I doing in those times where it feels like life is uncomfortable and it feels like things aren't just going well? What am I doing with my own life? Who gets a line to look within? Yeah. See the lesson in every single season. See the lesson in every single season. You know that some of the greatest growth in your life will come through your trying. Let me say that again. Some of the greatest growth in your life will come through your trying. Why is that? Because you go through a trying and grab hold of Jesus Christ, your faith begins to increase. And you recognize that as long as I keep my eyes on Jesus, he's going to see me through the trials of life. Yeah.